I think most everybody here knows who I am, but just in case, I'm Andy Wright, known around town mostly as one of Carly's husband, one of your fellow Rotarians. Nicole, you're Carly's husband. Yes. Andy. I am the current chair of the Central Curry School District Board, and I think as everybody knows at this point, we have a bond measure on the ballot coming up. Ballots are due in less than 2 weeks. So I'm here to just kind of give some highlights of what our intentions are with the money and do a little Q&A with everyone and go from there. I will start with saying, and I don't think I even realized it until we delved into the bond process, our school district has 2 campuses, Gold Beach High School, Riley Creek. Gold Beach High School is the older buildings in the district. The main portions as you walk in the front door were built during World War II, mid-1940s, and then progressively added on. So most of the Gold Beach High School campus built in the 40s and 50s, most of the Riley Creek campus built in the 50s and 60s. So our average age of the buildings is about 70 to 80 years old. And as you can imagine, in our lovely climate here, damp, salty air, some things need attended to. We had in 2019 some architects and engineers come in and do a facilities assessment for us. They crawled in the foundation, in the crawl spaces, in the attics, and gave us a pretty thorough report on our buildings, what the status were, what the useful life was left, and made several recommendations on things we should consider doing sooner rather than later as far as infrastructure went. So we started having bond meetings over a year ago in February 2022 to kind of come up with a game plan, because we knew that and this is one thing I want to clarify, I think everybody here knows, but I've been doing battle on Facebook lately trying to clarify this point. This bond that we're proposing will replace the one that is currently on everyone's property tax statements. The one that's on there now was taken out in 2003. It will roll off. This last year was the last time that one will show up. So if this bond passes, it will just replace the old one. It will not be in addition to that. So we went into it, that was kind of our intention, our timing of the bond. We went into it with that in mind, just having it replace the old one, which kind of dictated our timeline. So we came up with a game plan, talked through dozens of options, 10 different ways. If we do this, then we'll have to do that. If we do that, we'll have to do this. And you know, we kind of started off with, well, let's just build a new school. These buildings are 80 years old. And we had big ideas and big bright eyes, and then the architect came back to us with the public government construction cost per square foot, and we got really depressed after that. And reality hit. It's roughly about $550 a square foot to build a school right now, or any public building. That's up from, I don't know, it's over double in the past probably 5 to 10 years from where it was. There were other similar sized buildings built, that hit the 250 to 300 range, and now we're at 550 plus if we're lucky. So anyway, we went into it with that in mind, and we basically ended up with, one of the big things is we really wanted to have all of the kids on one campus, not necessarily in the same building, but on one campus. And we have 2 pieces of property, and the reality is that we do not have enough room on one property or the other to do everything we need to do with a K-12 school district. We still run 430 to 450 kids in our school district on average. Down a little bit post-COVID. I would expect it, to probably stay in that range for the foreseeable future. So we need to have space, athletic facilities, storage, buses, all of these things. We can't do one or the other. So we arrived at, let's just fix what we have and make it as efficient as possible and go from there. And that's what we did. And we did it with budget in mind, again, I think everybody here knows the levy history in Curry County. You know, several levies were attempted to be passed years ago to fund law enforcement, which probably has an even more direct impact on some residents than the school district. And it was shot, I think they tried it 3 times, and it was denied every time. So we came up with a plan that would minimize the impact on property owners in the district. The list of projects will include on both campuses roof and gutter repair / replacement, new windows, security doors, interior finishes and siding on the outside, new HVA systems on both campuses. And I will say, I think the boiler at Riley Creek, well, they still use a boiler, but the parts, getting parts for our heating systems in both buildings is next to impossible. There's about a 6 to 8 week delay if you can even find them. So that was one of the ones right at the top of the list. Electrical and plumbing in both buildings, old pipes that are sunk in concrete. You know, again, everybody that's done a home renovation knows you kind of peel back one layer and all of a sudden there's $500,000 worth of stuff that now you know you need to fix. That's kind of been our issue, particularly with the plumbing, because they're going to have to jackhammer a whole bunch of concrete to lay some new pipes in both buildings. On the electrical side, they're pretty much going to rewire both buildings, and when they do, one of the things we requested was running new Cat 5 or Cat 6 wire to help connectivity in all rooms. We still battle, we've been upgrading and paying extra to upgrade our Wi-Fi systems, and we're still not where we need to be. It's been quite a process to even get it functional over the past, I've been on the board 8 years now. So that will be one of the upgrades. Create dedicated secure entrances. If anybody's seen that rendering that's been floating around that the architects made, the main entrance of Riley Creek will shift from over on the side where it is now, kind of right out front. Again, and the high school entrance is pretty simple. It will remain where it is, but in addition to that, having the security doors all the way around both campuses, when we were making these plans, you know, we could have easily spent all of the money just fixing infrastructure, but it kind of turned into, if we're going to do all these things, we really want to add some safety features to these buildings that weren't anticipated in the 40s and 50s. So we decided to spend some money on that. The high school in particular, Riley Creek's pretty well walled off from that front entrance. It's gated. The high school, you have that back alleyway that passes in between the buildings. One of the things that will happen is that alleyway will be gated off at some point, and we may even do it this year, so that people can't, not just bad actors, but there are a lot of people that get in that alleyway after dark, and it would be really beneficial to all involved to keep people out of that central alleyway, but in particular from a security standpoint. So electronic security doors around the whole perimeter. When they close, the only way you're getting them open is with an electronic badge. So we've done some of those now, but we still have several more to go. Update vocational education spaces. We're going to do some work to the wood and metal shop, overhaul it, get some new equipment. Again, World War II era lathes and things in the metal shop if you've been in there. Upgrade and repair athletic facilities. Our core track down there has been in disrepair for, I don't know, since before I went to high school there, 2 or 3 years ago. And we will do some work to the football stadium, a few other minor things. Increase overall campus security. I covered that with the gates and the doors. And then lastly, improve traffic circulation. This is kind of just a best practice issue and a safety issue. All new schools that are built, the bus lane is completely separate from the parent pickup and drop off lane. And if you've ever picked up kids from Riley Creek when school's out, I creep through there at about 2 miles an hour because there's kids going this way, cars backing up this way, and we're going to spend a little bit of money at both campuses to separate both of those areas. Separate bus lane, separate vehicle entrance, pick up and drop off for the kids. That's the short of it. I mean, there's obviously a lot more detailed little things in and around, but those are the high points. Just some basic bond facts. The total bond issue is going to be 15 million. That's what we would theoretically borrow. The state of Oregon has already pre-approved a grant, an additional $4 million. If this bond passes, we will get an extra $4 million to add to the budget, really kind of leveraging some state dollars. They ordinarily don't tell you you're going to get that money until your bond passes, and we applied for it in December, and they said approved, and they generally don't do that because they have extra money laying around, but it was very helpful from a planning standpoint. It's like, okay, we know we're going to get this money, so we can make plans for it. If the bond does not pass, that $4 million goes to another school district somewhere else. What else? I don't want to I think most everybody here kind of knows a lot of the stuff already knows a lot of the things I was going to discuss, but you know, some of the most common questions and objections we've been getting, I already covered the new school issue. You know, why not build a new school? It's complicated. I mean, A, there's a property use issue, but B, the real problem is the $100 million price tag. I mean, I did the math. If we were to attempt, and that wouldn't even build an entire new school, that would only build part of a new school. It would increase average citizen's property taxes that lives in the city limits of Gold Beach probably by 50%. And I'm a decent salesman, but I don't know if I can get that one done. But on the flip side, this bond issue is a 20-year bond. At the end of the 20 years, high school is going to be 100 years old. I don't know where, you know, what we will, whoever's on the school board then, I really hope it's not me, we'll have to make the call on, you know, what do we do as a district, what does enrollment look like at that point, but what we're proposing here will absolutely get us through another 20-year cycle and then some. The engineers and our own maintenance department tell us the bones of most of the structures are in pretty good shape. There's some foundation work that needs to be done. The roofing is a mess, pretty much across the board. Yes?
Is there, excuse me, does this address any earthquake or tsunami preparedness at all?
No. The seismic work that was done in 16, 17, 18 pretty much covered everything we would need to do. Shear walls where there needed to be shear walls. I mean, there's no real magic bullet there. I mean, basically they're just trying to keep the buildings standing in the event long enough to get everyone out of them. But no, this will not include, there'll be some seismic work done on when they do the foundation work, but by and large, they took care of all that during the retrofit in whenever it was, 17, 18. Yes?
Does this include any cost for ongoing maintenance, for upcoming maintenance issues, so that we don't get 20 years down the road and have to do a big thing like this all over again?
Not really. I mean, we're going to spend as much as we can. We have a maintenance budget on the operational side that's actually better than it's been in a long time. Our district, prior, I think maybe 20 years ago, our head maintenance person, a guy named Ruben Hansen, who I think most everybody probably knows, he was great. He was on the ball looking for things to fix and potential issues. And when he retired, the district did not replace him, and we went about 10 years without a head maintenance person. We have since hired another maintenance person with some of the operational money for that very reason. And he's actually been of great help just trying to keep everything functional as it is. I mean, every one of those storms that came through, you know, 4 more leaks would magically appear. So the bond proceeds, no, but we have budgeted for it on the other side, on the operational side, with the maintenance person, and we have some for capital spending too.
You just touched on what I wanted to discuss with you. The definition of a remodel is that it will take longer and cost more than you think.
Yes.
And the only way that you can really mitigate that, besides as much pre-planning as you possibly can, is to have an excellent facilities person and an excellent superintendent. And you just touched on the facilities, but I knew Kim Wilson pretty well, but I don't know who your current superintendent is.
Nobody does.
Yeah, our current superintendent moved here from, where was it? Salem area, was a superintendent at a small district outside of Salem there for about 7-8 years, moved here. I will say, he is, you know, everybody has a different leadership style and personality type. Tim was an open door out there, hey, how you doing type person. Eric Milburn is his name. He's far more what I would say a traditionalist superintendent. I mean, maybe not as far as the public relations part goes, but as far as the day-to-day operations of the school district, he's, you know, things go up and down the chain the way they were intended to. So it's good from that part of it. The public relations side, you know, it's something we discuss. So
Tough to pass a bond issue with just the citizens without your paid staff being on board.
yeah, right. Oh, and they are. I mean, as far as, you know, the work we're going to do, they were all involved in those discussions. So I mean, it's good from that standpoint. I mean, I have no concerns about him making, you know, our current superintendent making sure all the things that we want to do get done. I mean, matter of fact, this bond issue was our main task for him this past year. Make sure we get everything done that needs to get done and make sure it gets on the ballot, and here we are, so. Yes, sir.
Are your old buildings still flat roof?
Some of them are, yes.
Are you going to change that?
I don't think so.
So they're still gonna leak?
Yeah, I mean, again, the expense of starting over and putting trusses on top of flat roofs, I mean, it could be done. They have some sort of fancy new vinyl coating that gets sprayed on and it's liquefied and it rolls off into all the cracks that I know that was discussed, but yeah, and believe it or not, the roofs that leak the most on campuses are not the flat roofs. Aside the Riley Creek gym, well, it's not flat, it has a very shallow angle, but the main high school building, which actually has a pretty steep pitch roof, is the worst one.
And yeah, you know, the bank was built about in the 70s as well, and it's a flat roof, and it's leaked always. But finally, last year, they had some engineers come in, they were able to fix the roof at the bank, and they did something with some kind of foam or something.
Yep.
If you want the name of that contractor, let me know, because it worked all this year with that horrible rainstorm. My bank has always leaked no matter what, but it rains like that, and it did it this year. It was the first time ever.
Yeah, no, it's funny because we actually, the architects, one of the renderings they gave us was of a brand new building and it had all flat roofs on it and everybody kind of looked at each other like, have you ever been to Gold Beach before? Yeah, so they came back, I mean, that proposal ended up getting scrapped, but yeah, the technology's come a long way with like I say, it's liquefied, so it actually goes and.
Well, somehow they puff it up a little bit somehow so that it I don't know what they did, but it was really great, so.
Yes.
If the bond passes, what are the windows for construction?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I was headed that way. So the bond, elections in 13 days, the bond would get sold and funded probably within a month of the election. There will be some light work and preparatory work done this summer, but all of the construction would be done in summer of 2024, most of it. They would start early on the things that wouldn't interfere with daily student activities, and then full frontal assault in the summer to get it done. So summer of 2024 is the proposed.
Thank you.
That was my question as well, but I think that we have a real issue with the water in our schools. So the plumbing should be like the #1 priority.
Yeah, that's absolutely on the list. Yeah, no,
But
we're
right
tired.
away.
Yeah, well, they got a jackhammer
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna have to, I mean, one of our former maintenance people, you know, there's a new system where you can basically run a balloon through the pipe, the old pipes, and it coats the inside of the pipe without having to remove anything. They did some of that at Riley Creek and it helped, but it's still, yeah, I mean, there's no reason to have bathrooms without running faucet water and.
I love during
all the
COVID
things.
when
Yeah.
you were at a basketball game and you couldn't go wash your hands in the bathroom.
Yes, because there was no water. Yeah. Yeah, and again, and that's one of those things where, if you open that window, you have a $300,000 expense laying at your feet. So, yes, but yeah, I wish we could do that part this year, but we're gonna have to tear up a lot to do that.
Should work. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, some of the other things, I touched on replacement bond. I think most everybody here is familiar with Measure 5. We had a lot of folks coming at us saying, if you're gonna borrow all this money, why don't you spend it on student-specific activities and programs, rather than facilities? And the answer is that Oregon state law prevents us from doing that. Measure 5 was enacted in the 90s and then amended multiple times, but these bonds are specifically for capital improvement. Any increases in or decreases in operational funding, that nozzle is controlled by the state of Oregon and the governor. So, and we have zero control over that at the local level, other than taking the pool of money we get and making an annual budget with it. So, and then one of the other things that's come up, people have kind of floated the idea of using other funding out there to try and cover some of these costs rather than putting the burden on the taxpayers. And we have leveraged that with the $4 million from the state to a degree, but really the other funding really only comes if A, you build a brand new school, and B, you build it, someplace that checks all of the boxes for FEMA or all of the boxes from these other places, and it still was nowhere near, I think. We looked at it, we researched it, and basically we probably could have rounded up maybe $20 million to build a $120 million facility to cover some of those costs. So we still would have been asking the taxpayers for $100 million in that specific example, and we just weren't prepared to do that. So that's kind of, again, I won't go through all the various scenarios, but that's the why on that one. Other than that, that's really all I had, other than to say, and again, I prepare these things for people who, for groups that maybe don't know me quite as well or haven't. I just tried to come up with a reason when we were doing all of our planning, and why would somebody vote for this who doesn't have kids in the school district? And it, the answer came back of, well, a lot of the kids who graduate from these schools end up, working in law enforcement, working in the service industry, teaching in the building. As school board members, 4 of the 5 of us are alumni of the school district at this particular moment. And that's been pretty consistent for the past 8 years. There was a while all 5 of us were. But. So it rolls downhill, and it's a very beneficial thing for the community in my mind. Yes?
So if it were to fail, what funding do you have available, and what are your priorities?
We have a small pool of money left over from the COVID funds that we've been intentionally sitting on, in case we weren't able to get it.
Can you give us an idea?
Well, I don't remember off the top of my head, because some of it's restricted funds. I mean, there may be $500,000 to $1 million that we have just in case of emergency. Plumbing would be right at the top of the list. The heating issue is a major problem. The roofing, again, would be something, but the expense on the roofing is, I mean, everything that happens in that building is prevailing wage, so the expense of it is automatically significantly higher than if you just called the plumber to come to your house. And so water would be the first one. Yeah. Yes, sir.
If and when they would build a new school to incorporate both campuses, where would it be?
That was part of our battle, because there's no if we wanted to have a single K-12 campus, there's not enough room on either piece of property to do it, to have everything we need to have. So it would have to go somewhere. And if you look at the maps, you know, everything right directly behind Riley Creek is all landslide risk in the event of the Cascadia subduction quake. The only real suitable pieces of property are outside the city limits. You know, probably on the top of this hill, further out toward Nasika Beach. And then, you know, when you move the entire school district out of the city limits, it creates a whole nother set of issues. And particularly with the underserved population, I mean, you know, the school is kind of a hub in the summertime. I mean, we provide free breakfast and free lunch for a lot of families in town. And if we move it, you know, I mean, our main job is education, but it would have a serious ripple effect. So.
Independent of this bond measure, is it true that some of the Riley Creek classes will be over to the high school campus? Is that?
That's happening separately from this.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, correct, yes, yeah, that's already been decided. The 7th and 8th graders.
7th and 8th beginning next year or what?
Yeah, beginning next year. And our mandate to the administrators, every superintendent we've had since I've been on the school board has wanted us to do that for the sake of efficiency. We have 5 teachers splitting time between Riley Creek and Gold Beach High School, and it's not an efficient way to run the school district, because those 7th and 8th graders are on the same bell schedule as the high schoolers. And if we have everybody in the same place all day, we can add classes here and kind of mix and match, okay, you're teaching over here, but yeah, that will happen this year. But anyway, our mandate to the administration was, you know, some schools that do that have a completely physically separated barrier. The kids will never pass each other. That's not going to happen at Gold Beach High School. So they just created an alternating lunch schedule where 7-8 will have one lunch schedule while 9-12 is still in class, and then they'll flip-flop. 7-8 goes back to class, 9-12 has lunch, and that would be the biggest window of concern, you know, where they would be commingling. The rest of the time, you know, they'll pass each other in the hallway. That would be the extent. So, but yes, that is happening completely independent of the voting issue. Unfortunately, COVID really we had a list of many things we needed to do at the school district, and COVID kind of held it all up, and now we're playing catch up. We're having to do a lot of things in a short period of time, things that needed to be done several years ago.
Okay,
Could we ask you to pull the ticket out
Yes,
yeah, this is our raffle.
and read the last 3 digits?
815. 815.
It's mine.
All right.
Who's?
Mary.
Mary's.
Boy, by 1 ticket.
One last thing before everybody goes, if I could ask, you know, public outreach, a lot of people aren't on social media. We finally took some doing to get some articles in the newspaper. I got that done. If you're supportive of this plan and the idea, I brought some fact sheets from the school district. If you want to take a few and get them to people who you know for sure aren't on social media that may have questions, I mean, I'm more than happy to spend as much time as I need to with anyone to answer questions about the whys and the whats. But I want to do everything we can to try and get it passed. So if we can get the word out there, even if nothing else, just a call or email with a question, that'd be great.